Hello and welcome to another episode of Agenda AWANI. I'm Lukman Haris. Now, everywhere we go, we seem to hear people talking about going green and achieving net zero, whether on an individual level or on the country or the national level. But for many countries, including or especially developing countries like Malaysia, the challenge to go green or to achieve net zero in a specified amount of time comes with it a list of challenges that cuts across multiple sectors. So how exactly do we balance Malaysia's needs in the energy transition that we need to execute in a timely manner? And this is the topic of my conversation today. And joining me in the studio is Mr. Takao Tsukui. He's the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Mitsubishi Power. Tsukui-san, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Luke.
So what key energy trends are you observing globally this year, and how will they influence Malaysia's energy strategy?
Sure. Globally, which I'm responsible in Mitsubishi for the global market, we are seeing a lot of the renewables getting built. And this has been the trend for the past decade. You know, a lot of countries, developed countries especially, went into renewables. But now, with the energy demand growing, we are seeing challenges just by the renewable growth because of the stability and the reliability towards the grid. So again, people are now investing towards gas plants to support the renewable, which is very complementary with each other. Right. And that's the global trend that I'm seeing. The recent boom on gas generation is definitely very complementary with the renewables.
Right. So I think coming from a layman understanding, when you mentioned gas turbines, the layman understanding is that it's contrary to decarbonization or going green initiatives. So what can we or what do we need to understand about using gas to help this initiative?
Yeah, let's start with what gas turbines are. Gas turbines are a very, very efficient, highly efficient thermal generation system. Compared to coal, 150% better efficiency in terms of thermal efficiency and less greenhouse gas. So just converting from a coal to gas plant already reduces about 65% of the GHG.
Right.
That itself is decarbonization. But together, the flexibility of a gas turbine supports together in operation with the renewables. So when the wind is not blowing, when the sun is not shining, gas turbines can operate to support that.
Right. So I want to stick with energy demand, which you've mentioned earlier. So here in Malaysia, the boom in data centers has helped lift the nation's economy, but it has also created concerns about our energy demand and also our decarbonization goals. So what's your assessment, maybe just a broad assessment of Malaysia's energy needs at this point in time?
My truth belief is that Malaysia's economic growth should not be stopped by the energy demand growth, should not be stopped just by the reasons of decarbonization, right? So if you need energy, there has to be some energy supply built to support that demand. Data centers get built in 18 months. Power plants get built in 36 months. So you have to keep on investing towards power plants, maybe double the speed compared to the data centers, because data centers are going to be built very quickly and they're very energy intensive with the AI and the heavy energy that's to be consumed by data centers. So generation has to be supporting this economic growth. Malaysia has a great infrastructure for people to invest in data centers. And I really, truly believe that the power development plant in this country should support that.
I mean, there's demand there, the demand factor, as you've mentioned, and we also have security concerns arising globally now, resurfacing, as I'm sure you well know. So how can we, Malaysia, effectively balance these priorities with our decarbonization goals? What's the balance that we have to strike? What's the sweet spot?
Well, that's a very difficult question. Yep. Obviously, there's no immediate clear answer to that yet. It takes certain time. I think Malaysia has declared 2050 of net zero, and of course very ambitious targets of 70% renewables by 2050, which is a great target to set. And towards that, step by step, you have to move forward. Malaysia has a very rich resources of gas and renewables in terms like hydropower. Right. So balancing the two, together with new investments in solar, it's a balance. It's a balance of supporting the economic growth together with achieving the targets towards 2050. So I think the step-by-step approach is going very well for Malaysia at this moment.
Yeah. key to this effort, I mean, besides capital, infrastructure development, is research and development, R&D for new technologies. I want to circle back to the gas turbines just now. So Mitsubishi Power's R&D efforts are contributing to the next generation, so to speak, of gas turbines. So are there any upcoming innovations or breakthroughs that we should be aware of?
Sure, I would say there's 3 steps. You say next generation, but actually it's happening already today.
Right.
We have a 64% high efficient gas turbine that is available. And as I mentioned, replacing from conventional type of generation system, that itself is decarbonization. That's step 1. Step 2, we can apply like carbon capture. Carbon capture system combined with combined gas turbine combined cycles can capture the carbon, which is also technology-wise available today. It will be costly, more than just installing a combined cycle. You're adding a carbon capture system to the CapEx, but still you can achieve that decarbonization. And step 3 will be a little bit far out in the future, which is like hydrogen and an ammonia, with green hydrogen, green ammonia, without emitting any kind of GHG, being able to generate on gas turbines.
Right.
So all these developments are ongoing in our own research and development facilities today, and with some validation that's ongoing in our facility.
Right. So we understand that establishing the hydrogen value chain presents challenges, both regionally and on the global level. So what right now are the key obstacles to establish the hydrogen value chain?
Well, obstacles is maybe not the right word to use, because we want to see it positively. The technology is development. The technology to actually utilize hydrogen is probably the most fastest development you will be seeing. The challenge is going to be the supply and the storage and transportation. So the supply chain side is going to be the challenge that we have to overcome, and this will need collaboration, because it cannot be just done with one market or one country. It has to be a collaboration for the region or more globally, with the rules, guidelines, regulations, and incentives and so on. So there are still challenges in that area, that the cost and the creating the supply chain is something that has to be more discussed about.
Right. And we've dipped our feet, so to speak, in this pool as well. In Sarawak, we have the envisioned Miri CCGT power plant.
Yep.
It's envisioned to be the regional green hydrogen hub. So what can you share with us about this power plant, and are we on track to achieve this goal?
Sarawak is an exciting place. Miri, we just recently signed the contract with our customer, Petros, and it's going to be a 500 megawatt power plant that's going to get built in Miri, and it's hydrogen ready. So it's going to start off with natural gas, but eventually the plan is to have hydrogen co-firing that will decarbonize the plant. And in Sarawak having a lot of rich hydropower, and also with the rich natural gas, it is a very exciting area to achieve the decarbonization roadmap with its just rich resources. It'll be, I think, an exciting project.
I think, of course, you've got data and you've got science behind you, obviously, but what's invaluable to efforts like this is also past experiences. So Mitsubishi Power has hydrogen projects around the world. You have the Takao Hydrogen Hub in Japan. You have the Advanced Clean Energy Storage Hub in the US. So how are the learnings from these existing projects be adopted to the Miri plant?
Sure. Let me introduce a little bit about the Takao Hydrogen Park. The Takao Hydrogen Park is a validation system and an integration system of hydrogen production, storage to utilization. So we have an actual power plant in our facility in commercial operation, full scale size, 600 megawatts, 64% power plant, which also co-fires this hydrogen that we produce, validating the various technologies of hydrogen production, and also storing it and sending it to the power plant. So this is a one whole demonstration plant of the hydrogen production, storage to utilization. Now we switch to the ACES plant in Utah. This is a larger, full-scale commercial plant that we had contracted several years ago, will come into operation next year. This will be a full-scale 220 megawatt hydrogen production facility. which will be producing green hydrogen and storing the hydrogen underground in a salt cavern, and then we'll be utilizing the hydrogen, green hydrogen produced with a gas combined power plant right next door to the hydrogen plant. So this is a first of a kind in the world to show that it can be realized with a full-scale hydrogen coal-fired gas plant. And we're going to get a lot of information, data, lessons learned from these plants, from Takasago Hydrogen Park and the Utah ACES plant. And we will be utilizing it to projects like Miri and other projects that we'll be doing on gas plants that can be eventually converted into co-firing of hydrogen.
Interesting times. I mean, I got to admit, I got a personal stake in this because I've just switched to electric myself, my vehicle. So I'm very invested in this topic. But we'll touch on this a bit later. I think a lot of people in Malaysia want to take the leap as well, but there are numerous challenges. But now we've got gas turbines, as you've mentioned. We've got hydrogen. We've got electrification, of course. Are there other promising technologies that Malaysia and the region should consider to achieve their net zero goals?
Well, you know, ammonia is also something that we are putting some efforts on.
Ammonia?
Yeah, ammonia is very convenient in terms of handling. Transporting hydrogen is much more difficult than transporting ammonia. Ammonia's supply chain is basically well established. And you can crack the ammonia to create hydrogen also. So that's another area that we are studying on. And also using ammonia as a fuel for firing gas turbines. So blue-green ammonia to be utilized directly, you know, without cracking into hydrogen, using ammonia direct firing on small-sized gas turbines is something that we're working on, and which could be actually faster than the large-sized gas turbines because just the amount of fuel that's necessary is much less, and the supply chain necessary is much less. So that could also be an interesting technology.
Interesting. Well, we've been increasingly hearing of CCUS as well. Malaysia itself plans to establish 3 CCUS hubs by 2030 as a key strategy in the energy transition roadmap. Can you explain to us CCUS technologies and how they factor into decarbonization efforts?
Sure. Mitsubishi also invests in CCUS R&D also. We have already a good established technology. We have installed globally, not necessarily in generation, but also like oil and gas industry, and also some coal plants that we've installed carbon capture. So it's already a proven product. It's a proven technology. So the good thing about combining with a gas turbine is gas turbine plus CCUS, gas turbine with hydrogen. So the inlet fuel to be decarbonized or the outlet gas to be decarbonized. So we have both options, both technologies available, depending on the region. You know, some areas may be able to generate very competitive green hydrogen, and some areas may not and may go to the carbon capture option. But carbon capture definitely is something very in the near future that will generate a lot more interest in the region.
Right. So you're here for, amongst others, Ended Asia, the Energy and Conference, Energy and Power conference in KL. In fact, you just came from the event. Thanks so much for squeezing in time to be here. So there, what was the general sentiment among industry peers? Was there like a sense of optimism about the energy transition?
Well, I think everybody, great leaders there, you know, great thought leadership, met with some great people. And I think a lot of people had in common that there is certain urgency to move a step forward. But at the same time, it's not a big leap. A big leap is going to be a difficult challenge, but we must move forward. And that's why we gathered together, you know, with all these great leaders to discuss and consider what kind of steps that is necessary, what kind of suggestions we need to make to the government or the authorizations to have this Asia region to move towards decarbonization. So it was a very good a day and a half that I spent, and a lot of good discussions.
Generally speaking, how has the reception been from governmental parties in terms of when you pitch all these ideas for them?
Well, I think all governments are making great efforts and announcing great goals towards 2050, some to 2060. And, you know, Then you go to the details of the roadmap, how to achieve that. And that's something that probably needs a little bit more discussion with the people like us, technology providers, and people like the government or the authorities who make the rules and guidelines or the incentives. And of course, like the generators who actually use our product and technologies. So the big circle and the system has to be generated together a little bit more, taking some time.
So on part of the industry players, how can they better prepare for the challenges and also opportunities that will arise in the next phase of this great energy transition?
Well, I think everybody's pretty much getting ready, but really moving forward, there's costs associated to it. The cost increase. Nobody wants a higher electricity bill or less electricity to provide it. People want to maintain and improve their lifestyles, and I think everybody deserves that. So there needs to be a balance. Again, maybe I go back to the beginning, but the balance between the economical growth, your personal lifestyle, versus the decarbonization, that balance will be very, very important.
Balance is an interesting word, and what you get back in return. I mean, this is probably anecdotal. As I've mentioned, I've just made the switch to electric, and I'm probably seeing a higher electricity bill, but I'm seeing a much less reduced gas bill, zero in fact.
Okay, that's good.
So how can governments, especially in developing countries, where honestly this issue might not be priority number one, how can they communicate more effectively to the public across all types of people that this is something that is important, that you need to do, despite maybe incurring high costs in the beginning?
Well, as a fact, we are seeing extreme weather. I think this is a fact that everybody's experiencing in the region. Even in my home country in Japan, we see a lot of differences from my childhood days. And sometimes it is very vital and could be very, very severe towards, even the threat towards your life. And, people need to feel that, the changes and the threat we are facing, to really understand the necessity of this decarbonization. Not in a necessarily negative way, but it's a challenge towards, towards us, towards our society. And like we had the challenges on COVID, this decarbonization is also a challenge that we must and can overcome, but understanding that challenge is very important.
Right. Lastly, Tsukui-san, what's next for Mitsubishi Power?
Well, for us, Asia has always been our neighborhood, our friends, good relationship, great customers, great partners. And for Mitsubishi, we just need to be there to be able to support the moves and actions done by each country. And each country is different. Malaysia is going to be different from Indonesia and Philippines and Thailand and Singapore. And all countries have their goals and their approaches and their roadmaps. We just need to make sure that we can support those roadmaps with our technology that's being developed.
If you don't mind, just squeeze one in as the last question.
Sure.
Because you've been obviously everywhere, to the US, your home country of Japan, now you're in ASEAN. What differences do you see in the challenges that each country or region face in this energy transition plan?
Very clear difference is Asia is still growing.
Yep.
Economic growth is still here, and it is fair to say that all of our Asian partners, countries, have the right to grow. I don't want the economic growth to stop, but we also have to, at the same time, think about decarbonization. And that's the difference between other developed countries, is that there's strong economical growth that we have the right to achieve.
So you don't believe that the need for rapid growth, as seen in this region, is going to be detrimental to decarbonization efforts, because that seems to be the popular belief, at least amongst the critics?
I think the great leaders and the thought leadership have to find the great solution to achieve both. And that's possible. That's possible with collaboration, working together, and of course with the developed countries, which will make the supply chain and the volume of the business to make the decarbonization commercialized and capitalized. Right. And I think that's possible.
Well said. I think, to quote the late John F. Kennedy, he said, "We choose to do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard."
Yeah, famous
then
word, yeah.
Nothing worth doing is easy doing. Thanks so much, Mr. Takao Tsukui, Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Mitsubishi Power, and we do hope to see more efforts by the government. There have been a number of efforts so far, we do applaud them, but we do hope to see the trend and momentum continuing in any administration to prioritize decarbonization efforts despite it having its obstacles or challenges in the beginning phase, including but not limited to cost awareness and things like that, especially in developing economies like Malaysia, because we are doing this not just for our benefit, but for the benefit of the next generation and also future generations. Thanks so much for joining us on Agenda Awani. I'm Luqman Haris. See you in the next episode.